In today's video, we're going to talk about a very hot topic right now, the bird flu. I'm going to keep this chat down to the basics. I'm going to make it simple for the average backyard chicken owner to understand. I'm not qualified to give heavily scientific or veterinary advice, so like I said, we're going to stick to the basics and make this easy for the average owner to understand, just so you can be aware of what the disease is and how you can attempt to prevent it in your flock and keep your flock safe and healthy. So first things first, the bird flu is a virus, and like all viruses, there are different strains of it. As the name suggests, it is transmitted through birds. The main ones you've been hearing about in the news have been poultry farms, but it is also spread and carried by wild birds, waterfowl, and various species of poultry. I live in Maryland, and while there has not been a reported case in my county yet, and hopefully there won't be, but in my state, there have been a couple of reported cases recently, as well as in some nearby states such as Pennsylvania and Delaware. So the first thing is to make yourself aware, know what's going on in your area and near your area, and then learn how you can prevent it. So like I was saying earlier, it is spread by wild birds. So if you have bird houses or bird feeders in your yard, you may want to consider taking those down, especially if they're near where you keep your chickens. I'm not saying you have to keep these down forever, but it's not a bad idea to take it down while the disease is actively spreading right now, especially if the virus has been spreading in an area near you. You don't want to be attracting wild birds to where you keep your chickens, not only because of the bird flu, but also because they can carry numerous other diseases and pests and parasites such as mites. Another thing you can do is put bird netting or deer netting over your run so that way birds cannot fly in here and be in the same enclosure as your chickens. It's also not a bad idea to put up deer netting or even wire over your entire enclosure, because that way it'll help protect them from predators as well. If you're free-ranging your flock, and if you're in an area that's high risk for the bird flu, it's not a bad idea to keep them contained right now, fenced in and safe, especially if you live near waterways, because waterfowl have been spreading the disease as well. Using good biosecurity methods is also a must at this time. If you have visitors over that have poultry or birds, I would not let them around your poultry unless they change their outfit or put on some kind of shoe covering or use a shoe wash. I have read that Lysol spray kills the bird flu virus, but you could also make your own spray at home by mixing bleach and water, which is what I've done here. And it's real simple, like I'll show you on the screen. You can just go ahead and spray off your shoes with it. You can do this if you visit people that have other animals, or if you're visiting another farm. For example, I have a horse that I board at a farm because I don't have enough land for her at the time where I live currently. So I have to board her. So whenever I come back from the farm, I spray down my shoes with this. Not just for bird flu, but just in case there's any other kind of parasite or disease. And it's also not a bad idea to have separate shoes for different areas. For example, if you're going to go to a different farm, make sure you just use one pair of shoes or boots for that, and then use a different pair of boots when you're going to be interacting with your own flock. And oftentimes you need to let something sit in the bleach solution for at least 10 minutes so that it can effectively kill the germs. Another tip, and I feel like this one is a no-brainer, but don't be sharing poultry supplies with other people right now. Or really in general, I would not recommend ever doing that unless you thoroughly disinfect them. And even if you're not sharing supplies or going to other farms or, being around other animals or people with birds, you still might want to consider disinfecting your shoes and changing your outfit, even if you're just coming home from like Walmart or the feed store. Especially the feed store, because there's so many people that go in and out of those stores that have poultry and they're tracking in different germs. And heavily populated stores like Walmart, especially if you live in a rural area, think about how many people with birds are walking in and out of there and could potentially be spreading something on their shoes. It takes very little effort to disinfect your shoes, so there's really no reason not to. And as far as your clothes, you can just wash them in your washing machine with hot water and detergent. And always make sure you thoroughly wash your hands with hot water and soap before and after handling poultry or their supplies. If you happen to bring any new birds into your flock, make sure you quarantine them for at least 30 days. And make sure you purchase them from a reputable farm or breeder. You also want to keep your area very clean, not only to keep your birds healthy, which you obviously want to do no matter what, but also so you don't attract other animals and wildlife to your backyard. If you leave out uneaten food or treats from your poultry, you may attract other creatures that may potentially be carrying diseases. Make sure all of their food is cleaned up and put away every night. And pay close attention to how you're keeping your birds. Make sure you're doing things to give their immune system a boost and keep them extra healthy. Make sure their coop is clean and well ventilated. Make sure they have access to a healthy and balanced diet at all times. You can also supplement their diet with different herbs that have many medicinal properties. And you can even head over to your local feed store and pick up some additional things there to keep on hand in case you have a bird that looks like it's not doing too well, or just to give them as a preventative. Add some extra supplements to their diet to keep their immune system strong. You can also give them fresh fruits and vegetables, especially vegetables that are high in vitamin C, such as peppers and tomatoes, because that'll really give their immune system a boost. So now that we've talked about some easy ways to try to prevent the spread, we can talk about some symptoms to be aware of. Now keep in mind that birds are prey animals, so it is natural for them to hide illnesses. They are very good at hiding illnesses because if they show that they're weak, predators are going to pick them off. So they do everything in their power to hide something if something is off. So keep a close eye on them for any sudden behavior changes, but also keep in mind that if you have a sick bird, not just from bird flu, but from any kind of illness, you may not see it in time and you might just come out and see them unfortunately passed away just seemingly out of the blue one day. But aside from sudden death, other symptoms to be aware of are a swollen head, purple discoloration on the comb, wattles, legs, or other body parts, a lack of energy, reduced egg production, but don't freak out if your hens aren't laying a lot of eggs this time of year because at the time of this filming, it is winter time. It's the very beginning of February as I'm filming this, and a lot of birds aren't laying as many eggs right now. Or if you have an older hen, it's natural for them to not lay many eggs either. Other symptoms include respiratory distress, nasal discharge, a cough, severe diarrhea, a swollen comb or wattles, ruffled feathers, like if your bird is sitting all puffed up and looking cold and miserable. Cobbler's like, who, me? No, you're healthy, Cobbler. You may also witness a lack of coordination, stumbling, and falling. In some cases, your bird may also have their head twisted or like turning in an unnatural manner, which could also indicate the onset of the bird flu. And now you may be wondering, what is the risk to humans? So fortunately for you, the risk is very low if you're a person. Not as low if you're a chicken, but you don't need to worry too much about yourself personally. At least at this time, it is not a major risk to the human population. It does not affect humans the same way that it would affect your hen. And as of now, there's only been one reported death from a human having bird flu in the US. However, that individual had underlying health conditions prior to developing bird flu, so who's to say if that can fully be blamed, but it was reported that he had that at the time of his death. There have been reports of the bird flu spreading to other animals and livestock, not just birds. Which is why it's good to be smart and clean and responsible and practice good biosecurity methods no matter what species you're dealing with. I also want to mention, don't let the fear rule you. It is good to be informed, it's good to stay smart and be on top of what's going on in the world. But you also can't become obsessed with it. You can't let the fear take over. Don't go into panic mode, just be smart about it. And also remember, you can't believe everything that you see on the internet. So the best thing to do if you think you have a bird that may have bird flu is to contact your veterinarian and go from there. There are so many different illnesses that a bird can have, so just because your bird is sick does not necessarily mean it's going to be bird flu. Germs and disease and viruses are sadly just a part of life. They've always been here. It's always going to be here. Viruses and germs aren't just going to go away. So don't freak out. Just be smart and be responsible. If you happen to have a bird that passes away suddenly or passes away after having symptoms of bird flu, it is recommended that you triple bag the carcass of the bird and disinfect the outer layer of the final bag that you use. It is then recommended that you contact your local veterinarian or your state's Department of Ag so that they can tell you proper disposal methods of the carcass. A veterinarian can also perform an autopsy for testing to determine what your bird died from. Flocks that test positive for bird flu are euthanized, so you don't have to worry about their eggs or their meat being distributed to the grocery stores. They will not be used for consumption. They are euthanized to try to contain and stop the spread. And also because sadly these farmers don't have the time or the money or the resources to try to nurse these sick birds back to health. Not that I think they would be allowed to even attempt to anyway. I've recently heard that most, if not all states in this country will reimburse farmers that have to euthanize their entire flock due to the bird flu. There are going to be a lot of new chicken owners now because the prices of eggs are so high and people are scared and worried and panicked about the food supply. And like I said, they would never, at least knowingly, put eggs or meat from sick birds in the supermarket. And as long as the meat is cooked properly, it should not pose a risk if consumed. But aside from that, I've always said on this channel, it's never a bad idea anyway to learn how to provide for yourself and raise your own eggs, grow your own food, be more self-sustainable so you don't always have to rely on the government or going to the grocery store. It's good to know where your food comes from. And oftentimes, if you're raising these birds yourself, you know how they're being cared for, you know the diet they're getting, you know what they're eating. So you can ensure that your eggs are going to be healthier for you and whoever you sell them to if you choose to take that route. It's nice to be able to be in control of where your food comes from. So I would not discourage anyone from doing that. If you have the time and the space to keep these animals, I would say definitely go for it. Just make sure you do your research first, know what you're getting into, and make sure you're prepared. I have countless videos on my channel that go over chick and chicken care, so make sure you check those out if you're new to this journey and you want to learn more about it before you make the dive and buy some birds. I would never recommend bringing in an animal into your home on impulse. Make sure you're fully prepared first so that they can get the proper care that they deserve. If you have any questions or concerns about your flock, don't be afraid to go ask an expert. And good luck with keeping your flock happy and healthy. We are actually supposed to get an ice storm here tonight, so I'm going to get this camera turned off and I'm going to start getting the girls ready for the cold weather and the ice and snow that's coming.